Hello everyone, it's Andre here from SWL. Welcome to episode 5 of my series, the SWL DXing report, where I talk about radio-related news, frequency changes, news stations, and anything else that might interest DXers. In this episode, you will hear about the end of the line for two very popular and really quite excellent Tecsun radios, an international shortwave competition, good news about radio listenership in the United Kingdom, Radio New Zealand's DRM transmitter being put into service, and some frequency news on both shortwave and medium wave. I end with the regular propagation forecast from the Space Weather Prediction Center at the US's National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA. The past week, from 29 July to 5 August, has been marked with very high solar activity. So what can we expect this week? Stay tuned to find out. While the BBC has cut its broadcasts on shortwave, it seems to be increasing rebroadcasts on FM. The BBC website reports that BBC World Service in English has partnered with a company called DMS Broadcasting to rebroadcast BBC programming to audiences in the Cayman Islands in the Caribbean. DMS Broadcasting is based in the Cayman Islands with 7 FM radio stations with music, entertainment, news, and information. BBC World Service English will now be rebroadcast on a station called Bobo FM 89.1 from 10:30 AM to 7:30 AM 5 days a week, and on average 21 hours on weekends. There is more good news for us radio lovers. The BBC also reports that radio continues to break records in the United Kingdom, as the latest audience research from Radio Joint Audience Research, or RAJAR, shows that over 50 million people are listening to radio stations in the United Kingdom each week. RAJAR is the official body in charge of measuring radio audiences in the UK. Commercial radio remains the most popular in the UK, with a record listening share of 55%, compared to the BBC's 42.6%. This marks a significant increase from the same period 2 years ago, when commercial radio's share was 49%. That was in the second quarter of 2022. Commercial radio's audience in the UK has now surpassed 40 million for the first time. It has reached a record-breaking 40.5 million weekly listeners. So this new milestone breaks the previous record of 39.7 million, which was set in the first quarter of this year, which shows that radio listenership is on the up. While most people still seem to listen on traditional radio receivers, smart speakers are becoming quite popular, with people listening on smart speakers growing to 17% of total listeners, and that is an 18% increase year on year. Moving on to shortwave radio, the Australian website radio.info reports that Radio New Zealand went live on Thursday, 1 August, with its new Pacific shortwave transmitter, a DRM transmitter that replaced the old one that dates to 1989. New Zealand's Foreign Affairs Minister, Winston Peters, said at the launch of the new transmitter that shortwave remains an important medium. New Zealand and China are now the only two countries providing a regular shortwave service to the Pacific region, as Australia's ABC has pulled out in 2017. Radio New Zealand has been broadcasting into the Pacific for the past 75 years using shortwave, and the station called Radio New Zealand Pacific was launched in 1990. As I reported before, RNZ installed a Swiss-made Ampagon shortwave transmitter, which is capable of both digital and analog transmissions, and this one replaces its old transmitter. RNZ's chief executive, Paul Thompson, said this is a significant infrastructure upgrade and it secures the future of the RNZ shortwave service into the wider Pacific. Very good news indeed. Thompson said shortwave is still relevant, despite there now being a multitude of ways for people to access content. He said a lot of the ways to access content rely on digital infrastructures, such as good fiber links or good internet connections, which not all people have. Shortwave, beamed from New Zealand, gets through very easily to people in the Pacific region. Thompson said the number of listeners is unknown, and that a survey to find out how many people are listening, even if it was possible, would be too expensive. However, he said he knew people were listening, because RNZ Pacific journalists often find listeners in the most remote locations. Also on the topic of shortwave, a shortwave listening contest is currently in its last month. It is the SWL Contest 2024, organized by Frank from France. The competition started on the 1st of June already, and you have until the 30th of August to capture your stations. Frank will reward people with E-awards, ranging from bronze for capturing up to 49 stations, and diamond for capturing more than 250 stations. The rules are on Frank's website. There is a link in the description of this video to his site. You can capture anything on broadcast shortwave, including pirate stations and clandestine stations, but not hams or utility signals in SSB mode. You need to list all your catches per band and then email this list to Frank before 9 September 2024. His email address is available at the link in the video description. Frank says on his blog the main goal of this competition is to have fun, and it does sound like a lot of fun to me. Talking about listening, and some quite bad news, in fact. There have been some unconfirmed reports, also from some of my own viewers on this channel, that production of the Tecsun PL-660 and the Tecsun PL-680 has been discontinued. These are two very popular radios with a loyal following. They still use analog internal circuit boards at a time when analog radios are becoming quite hard to find. All radio manufacturers now seem to use DSP chips. The PL-680 and PL-660 both have excellent sensitivity on shortwave and medium wave and are very good for SSB listening also. Unlike most DSP-based radios, they do not soft mute when tuning, which is very important for many DXers. I contacted Anna at Anon-Co in Hong Kong to find out what is going on with these two radios. Anon-Co is a Tecsun retailer based in Hong Kong, and they ship worldwide. I asked Anna whether the PL-680 and PL-660 have been discontinued. I quote her answer. She said, "It is partly true in the sense that Tecsun currently has no production schedule for these models. The PL-660 and PL-680 are using a type of traditional analog integrated circuit, IC, that is no longer available, because basically all IC manufacturers nowadays only offer the modern DSP ICs. It is not possible to simply replace an analog IC with a DSP IC. This requires a complete revision of the radio's architecture. At this moment, Tecsun is trying to find some suppliers who may still have some stock of analog ICs and are willing to sell them, or they are trying to find alternative ICs that can also be used. This may take some time, but if they are able to do so, then Tecsun will resume the production of these models. So it is not that these models are officially discontinued at this point. However, it seems to me that these radios might turn into DSP-based radios in future. If I listen to Anna's comment, if they secure some DSP chips and revise the internal architecture of the radio, maybe, yeah, we're going to see completely different versions of these radios in future. Anna said that Anon-Co purchased all remaining stock from Tecsun when they heard that these radios are not being produced at the moment. She said the PL-680 is almost out of stock, and they might have enough PL-660 radios for only the next 2 months or so. If you have been wanting to buy one of these radios, now might be the time to do it while they are still available. I've already noticed that they are not available on Amazon.com anymore, nor on the Tecsun Australia website. Some AliExpress sellers still seem to have stock, and I'm sure some local dealers in various countries might still have stock. But I think it's time to get one if you want one. I made sure to order a PL-680 for myself from Anon-Co just last week. It will take a couple of weeks to get here, I think, but I will test and review this one as soon as it arrives. I'm very excited. It is one of the radios that I've always wanted. And I think now that they might be harder to come by, it is the time to get one. On to some frequency news. A shortwave listener reported a new shortwave frequency and station on X this week, 4840 kilohertz, thanks to a viewer on my channel who alerted me to this. It appears to be a Brazilian station and was heard in Milan, Italy very clearly. WWCR in Nashville relays some stations on 4840 kilohertz, so I assume that this Brazilian station might also be something that is being relayed via Nashville. It might be a station called Jovem Pan from Sao Paulo in Brazil, according to some comments on X. Perhaps it is worth monitoring this frequency. Early morning UTC time, that will be around 0400 UTC. That is the time when this station was heard in Milan, Italy. That is 4840 kilohertz. Now I have some very bad news about Voice of America. As I have been reporting in several of my previous episodes, VOA and the US AGM have been reducing various transmissions around the world on shortwave and medium wave, with Sao Tome transmissions in particular among those being cut. It seems to me that the VOA medium wave transmission on 1530 kHz from Sao Tome to West Africa in English and French is gone. I haven't heard this frequency at all over the past week, even on some online SDRs, and there have been some good medium wave conditions here at my location over the past week. There were days when I heard all my usual stations from Mozambique and Botswana, and also Radio Free Africa from Tanzania on 1377 kHz, but 1530 kHz was just gone. And that one is usually one of the regular ones on days when conditions are good. This is really a pity. This frequency covered large parts of Africa, and it was often a clear catch for me here in Johannesburg, despite the distance of over 4,000 kilometers or 2,200 miles. I know of people who even heard it in Finland. VOA on medium wave from Celebi Pikwe to Botswana is still on air though. It is on 909 kilohertz. The Botswana VOA medium wave service signs on at 1600 UTC. It used to be 1530, and sign off is now at 2030 UTC. Sign off used to be at 2100 UTC. To end then, a quick propagation forecast from the Space Weather Prediction Center at the US's National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. You might have noticed solar activity was at high levels this past week from 29 July to 5 August. Today is 5 August, the day that I am recording this podcast. There were some strong solar flares and geomagnetic activity reached G1 to G3 solar storm levels on the 30th of July, the 1st of August, and also the 4th of August. On the 4th of August, a CME, a coronal mass ejection, that left the Sun on the 1st of August, reached Earth, and that caused a G3 solar storm. For the next couple of days, solar activity is expected to be at moderate to high levels, and this will continue until the end of August. Geomagnetic field activity is expected to be mostly quiet and quiet to unsettled from now until the 31st of August, and there is a 75% chance of minor to moderate radio blackouts until the 7th of August. So conditions are a bit more unsettled than what they have been a month or so ago, but there should still be some days where listening conditions are quite good. That's all then for this week's Shortwave News Update. I think the news about the Tecsun PL-680 and the PL-660 is quite sad, unfortunate that those two very good radios are not being produced at the moment. So time to get one, I think, if you want one. Feel free to share your listening reports with me or to ask me to cover news items that you are interested in. Happy listening.